Sri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Sai SATCHARITRA, an Insight. Episode 140. My humble prostrations at the lotus feet of our Sadguru Sai. By the divine grace of Sai, an attempt has been made to translate the gist of the divine discourse of Sri Ramanathan brother telecasted in Sai TV. This is purely done to share the glory of Sai and his divine teachings with more insight to the aspirants. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnuhu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahmam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Devotees, in the previous episode, we were listening about Bhakta Pant. He had to go to Virar, so he boarded the train at a station to reach Virar, and to his utter surprise, he found many of his friends and relatives in the train who have decided to go to Shirdi. Among them were his daughters-in-laws. They persuaded him to join them to Shirdi. Pant was not completely convinced about this trip, but his relatives forced him to accompany them, so with a perturbed mind, he agreed. By then, the train stopped at Virar station. He alighted at Virar, which was his hometown, to seek the permission of his Kulaguru. His Guru gave his consent to have Sri Sai Baba's darshan. Then Bhakta Pant also borrowed some money from his friends and proceeded to Mumbai to go to Shirdi. As the troop was to travel from Mumbai to Shirdi the same night, they continued their journey in the same train. Finally, Bhakta Pant was able to meet them at Mumbai the same night, and all of them started from there, reached Kopargaon railway station, hired a tonga and went to Dwarakamai. They entered Dwarakamai around 11 a.m. and there was heavy crowd in Sai Maharaj's darbar. The group of devotees felt very happy glimpsing at the meditative posture of Sri Sai Baba. The ambience was filled with divine fervor. Devotees were singing bhajans, praising the glory of Sri Sai Baba with great zeal. All these people stood in the line for darshan. Just then, suddenly, Bhakta Pant got seizures. Everyone looked at him in bewilderment. His limbs were motionless. His relatives and friends got frightened at this sight. He was lying on the floor as though he was impaired. Other devotees went and brought some water and sprinkled on his face. With Sri Sai Baba's grace, he slowly regained consciousness and opened his eyes as though he just woke up from sleep. Omniscient Sri Sai knew that he is a devotee of another Guru, thus said, "Come what may, leave not your bolster. Realize that all are one and the same. Remain firm in your belief. Hold on tightly to your Atmaraman and stay always at one-ment with him." Devotees, it's necessary to contemplate on the term Atmaraman. Why did Sri Sai use the term Atmaraman? Generally, the word Atmaraman and Aptakaman are used together. Aptakaman means the one whose desires has been fulfilled. Apta denotes fulfilled and Kaman means desires. Likewise, Atmaraman signifies the presence of Kulaguru in self, as Atma means self. So Atmaraman here means to hold on to your Kulaguru with steadfast faith upon him and never leave him under any circumstances. Listening to this advice of Sri Sai, everyone thought that Pant had a guru by named Atmaraman and he has to stick to him ever. But Bhakta Pant caught the purport of this declaration of Sri Sai, which reinforced his faith and devotion upon his Kulaguru. Sri Sai Maharaj used these metaphors to make Bhakta Pant realize the truth that one must hold on to their Guru. Bhakta Pant has been hesitating to come for Sri Sai Baba's darshan. Now, after heeding to this judicious advice of Sri Sai at the suitable moment, Pant realized its significance. Bhakta Pant felt very happy and understood that having come to Sri Sai's darshan was his greatest blessing. Many people have a longing to have darshan of Sri Sai Baba, but not all of them get that opportunity. Some would have never thought of Sri Sai or planned to go to Shirdi for darshan, but surprisingly, they will be pulled to Shirdi on one or the other context, and their first glimpse at the divine form of Sri Sai Baba will make a deeper impact in their heart. Thus, they get attracted towards him like that of an iron towards the magnet. This is the preeminence of Sri Sainath Maharaj, and we have seen many instances in Sri Sai SATCHARITRA that depicts this truth. To quote, there was a physician by named Dr. Paramanand. He was a very leading doctor of medicine in Mumbai. He never had any plans to come to Shirdi or thoughts to have Sri Sai's darshan. Once, Sri Sai Baba inserted his hand in the holy duni and burnt it. So, to treat Sri Sai Maharaj's hand, Nana Sahib Chandorkar brought Dr. Paramanand to attend on Sri Sai Baba. Sri Sai never allowed the doctor to treat his burnt hand, instead said, Allah was his doctor and will heal it. Though the treatment of the doctor was not accepted by Sri Sai, Dr. Paramanand was fortunate enough to have the darshan of the Supreme Lord Sri Sai Baba, says Hemat Panji. Similarly, Bhakta Pant never had any intention to come for Sri Sai Baba's darshan. But the mercy of the Lord and his past good merits had brought him to Shirdi. Thus, he could come and have the darshan of Sri Sai Maharaj and enjoy the grace of the Lord. This miracle has been very beautifully narrated by Sri Hemat Panji in Sri Sai SATCHARITRA. Sri Sai Baba emphasized Bhakta Pant, stick to your bolster. That is, the faith and devotion you have upon your Guru is the best. Hence, keep steadfast faith on him alone, is the message here. Ramanathan brother says that this reminds him of another miracle which has the same connection and is worth sharing here. Let me recall the Leela of Sri Pundi Swami now. This is an experience related to Mr. Kumaraswamy, a lawyer in Chennai High Court. Later, he was transferred to Vellore. One day, he went to have darshan of Sri Pundi Swamigal, known as Sri Pundi Mahan. There, he also saw the then Inspector General of Police, Sri Paramaguru, standing in the presence of Sri Pundi Swamigal. This Paramaguru's vision was fixed on the Swamigal and he stood there for quite some time. For a split of a second, he got the thought that Sri Pundi Swamigal is a great avaduta and must be in a higher spiritual plane than his own guru. So, Sri Pundi Swamigal must be given more reverence than anybody. Though in his mind he pictured Sri Pundi Swamiji as the greatest one, it was not right on his part to think of his own guru otherwise. Precisely at that moment, a cowherd boy was chasing a cow which was leashed to a rope. Sri Pundi Swamigal shouted aloud as though he was addressing the boy. Even if you grab only one, hold firmly to it. Immediately the IG gently slapped both sides of his cheeks with his hands as a gesture of begging pardon for the wrongdoings. As soon as the IG came outside, the lawyer Kumaraswamy approached him and inquired the reason for this action of his, and the IG admitted that the utterings of Sri Pundi Swamigal was an eye-opener to him, which reflects the thought that one should totally surrender to his own guru, have steadfast faith and hold respect to him always. Devotees, this miracle is expounding the same thought as that of the experience of Bhakta Pant, hence it is very apt to compare it here. Next, Hemat Panji describes the miracle of Harichandra Pitale. Again, there is a very short description about him in Sri Sai SATCHARITRA, which does not cover the plight in which he was pulled to Shiradi, how he had darshan of Sri Sai Baba, what were his thoughts while he came for darshan, and why this Leela was transpired by Sri Sai Baba to him. All these details are mind-boggling and interesting too. There is a common saying that Jaisa Bhav, Taisa Anubhav, which means as you think, so it happens. Many stories in Sri Sai Satcharitra underscores this thought. If we know the attitude of the person coming for Sri Sai's darshan, then it is very easy to comprehend on the Leela experienced by them. Ramanathan brother states, it is very important for us to understand the convictions and situation of the person that comes for darshan, as that gives a deeper insight to the divine sport played by Sri Sai Baba. Now let us heed few details in connection to Harichandra Pitale. He was residing in Mumbai at a place known as Santa Cruz. Pitale was working for Graham Company as a sales representative. His parents were affluent, but he was leading a middle-class life. A notable incident happened in his life. His eldest son was studying in college, who was also married, as in the olden days, early marriage was very common. Unfortunately, he fell sick while he was a student in college. On April 11, 1910, he passed away. The grief of losing the son was unbearable for Harichandra Pitale and his family. When a couple doesn't get progeny, they spend their life in sorrow. But if the parent loses their son who has grown into a young adult, then their life becomes miserable and inconsolable. It was heartbreaking for the parents to see their young widow daughter-in-law. Their son got married few years back and has a small baby. It is so sad now the family had to face such a tragedy in their life. This is an irreparable loss for the family. They were all engulfed in deep grief and searching for peace of mind as they were all pushed into a tormenting situation. The whole family was wanting some light in their life. Our Sadguru Sri Sai Maharaj, the most compassionate one, would always give priority to such people. shower His loving grace upon them, strengthen their belief, and pull them out of their misery. This Leela is a testimony to this fact. So when the family of Harichandra Pitale was in deep sorrow, Sri Sai Maharaj pulled him to Shirdi. Let's listen how this Leela was transpired by Sri Sai Baba. While Harichandra Pitale was working in Graham Company, he had a colleague by named Raghunath Sate Tendulkar, who has listened to the glory of Sri Sai from the Kirtans of Dashkanu Maharaj. We are aware that Dashkanu Maharaj has been spreading the greatness of Sri Sai Maharaj far and wide through his discourses, kirtans and bhajans, and has been a great instrument in drawing thousands to Shirdi for Sri Sai's darshan. Dashkanu's services are of paramount importance, for which we as Sai devotees need to be eternally grateful. Dashkanu Maharaj's kirtans gave Raghunath Tendulkar a lasting peace, and being aware of Harichandra Pitale's mental turmoil, he felt the need for them to have this experience. Hence, he arranged for Dashkanuji's kirtan at Harichandra Pitale's home in Santa Cruz and fixed a date. This he did without even informing Harichandra devotees. The kirtan is not staged by any other kirtankar, but the great Dashkanu Maharaj is going to perform it. This day turned to be a greatest landmark in the life of Harichandra Pitale and his family members. This remarkable event took place on 6/6/1910. As soon as Dashkanu Maharaj commenced the kirtan, all those assembled at the house were electrified by Sri Sai Baba's energy. It penetrated every cell in their body. The crowd listened in rapt attention, completely absorbed in spiritual fervor. Through Dashkanu Maharaj's kirtans, the love and faith upon Sri Sai grew so strong in their hearts to the extent that they were immersed in the love for Sri Sai. As soon as the kirtan was over, Dashkanu Maharaj left their home, but the audience were still enjoying the harmony that the melodious kirtan had left in their hearts. One of the most beautiful kirtan composed and sung by the greatest kirtankar Dashkanu was Darshan De Sai Baba, was still echoing in their ears, which means, "Oh Sai Baba, please give us your vision." These words pierced their hearts, and the family kept murmuring them throughout the day, even while they were engaged in their own work. They forgot their pain, their mind attained peace, they yearned for Sri Sai's darshan. The family was eager to go to Shirdi. Now they got a preliminary darshan of Sri Sai Baba at their home, as Dashkanu Maharaj always has the practice of placing a beautiful portrait of Sri Sai Maharaj in front of the audience, decorating with a beautiful garland and lighting incense stick. He commences his kirtans. So, after seeing this magnificent form of Sri Sai Baba, their heart melted and began to long for Sri Sai's darshan in person. At this juncture, Raghunath Tendulkar, the one instrumental in arranging Dashkanuji's kirtan at Harichandra Pitale's home, came to him and said, "You all had some relief listening to the divine kirtans of Dashkanu Maharaj, and now we all can plan for Sri Sai Baba's darshan." Thus, he suggested that Harichandra Pitale can make his preparations to go to Shirdi in the next few days by applying leave from his work, and both the families can go to Shirdi together. Harichandra Pitale also felt that their suffering seemed to be less after attending to the kirtans of Das Ganuji and gained belief that having darshan of Sri Sai Baba will help them to get relief from their grief. But he didn't want to postpone this thought and was willing to go right away. Hence, he said he will apply for leave immediately, and before doing so, he wanted to seek permission from Sri Sai. Devotees, isn't this a marvelous transformation? Can you imagine the great influence that Dashganu Maharaj's Kirtans has made in the minds of Harichandra Pitale? Even to go to Shirdi, he wanted to seek Sri Sai's consent. Then he wrote 3 chits and placed it in front of Sri Sai's portrait. What was written on those chits? What was the permission granted by Sri Sai to this family? How was he granted leave at his work? So many fascinating incidences are connected to this amazing Leela, and we shall listen to them in the coming episode. Bow to Sri Sai. Peace be to all. Om Sai Ram.